Welcome to Living in Color, real talk for Black women and women of color, where we talk about anything from family to finances to food. Um, I'm your host, Erica Joyce Schultz, a Black woman inspired and who hopes to inspire. I'm glad y'all are here because today we are going to kind of piggyback off of what we were talking about last week with balance and an intro to balance in our lives and things like that. And we're going to talk about how to find that balance through self care. So let's get it. I'm going to grab a drink. Last week, we started talking about balance in our lives, um, whether it's work life, just balance. And at the end of the episode, spoiler alert, we determined that self care just might be the key to that. Self care, which is by definition the practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's own health. That's overall health, mental, physical, spiritual. And I ain't going to lie, it's a lot. It's a lot, but it's necessary. It's important. Not only is it just important, but it's important because with the demographic that this podcast um, the is trying to reach, it's important that for us in self care, it can help us to counter the effects that we deal with from systemic racism, trauma. Um, it can help raise self esteem. That I think that's probably the benefit that isn't talked about enough because consistently not putting yourself first subconsciously makes you a back burner type object, or you know it makes you start to devalue yourself. When you don't have value in yourself, your self-esteem naturally starts to drop, your self-worth. So not only can it help raise the self-esteem, but it also, and I think this has probably been the most uncomfortable benefit for me. It gives us permission to explore and express our emotions and our needs. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into some ways that we can implement self care into our lives. This isn't an exhausted list or, the end all be all by any means, but just a couple ideas to help get us going. How excited are you guys for tip number one? Disconnect from social media. I know that's a fun one and uh, kind of a difficult one for a lot of people. I know that social media acts like crack, but for your mental health, and I say that because there are studies and think pieces and all kinds of things out there that point to the fact that overexposure to social media leads to uh, lack of sleep, depression. You know, when you have lack of sleep, that can lead to more depression, and then you're stuck in a spiral, and that is a crappy, crappy place to be in. I've been there. Plus, the disconnect helps us reconnect. If we get our faces out of our phone, we can actually pay attention to what's right in front of us. Like our family, or like that project that you've been meaning to do, or actually you wanted to do, and you put it on the catch all table that's in your house. You know you have one. Everybody has a catch all table. Let's get to tip number two. Zen your home. That is tip number two. So, with that being said, I have taken my room and my bedroom and I have made that my Zen den. Okay. I've got my Himalayan Himalayan salt lamp in there. It's always on, just kind of purifying the air. Plus, the light is just enough to where, if I don't want the lights on, I'm not in the complete dark, but it's not super bright. The ambiance just chef's kiss, and I keep that space. I meditate, in that space. I do a lot of aromatherapy. I love candles and I love incense. They just make me happy. And it makes that space just woosah, you know? So when my daughter comes in, being the performer and the dramatic one that she is, she rolls my eyes at me all the time because she'll pop in bouncing off the walls and I'm like, hey, 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 bring it down in here. This is chill. This is the Zen den. If you don't have a Zen den, make one. You will thank me, I promise. Let's get to tip number three. This one kind of hit me in the gut. Improve your relationship with food. Ha! Did you hear what I said? I had said it hit me in the gut, and the tip was improve your relationship with food. I promise I didn't do that on purpose. That's just how it happened. Anyway, improve your relationship with food. Um, this one hit me because of the fact that I used to struggle with eating disorder. Um, I never did the binge and purge thing. I would binge, but I would binge for like a day, and then I would go days without eating. Um, it's it's been a healing journey, and this is some years ago. But I do find, especially now that I'm working on getting rid of my COVID pounds, I do find that I tend to want to go to those extremes again, especially when I have those moments where I'm wanting to, you know, eat French fries and ice cream because I freaking love ice cream. I eat ice cream year round. I don't care what you say. Don't come at me. Ice cream is a year round treat. It's delicious. But that's not the point. I do fight those feelings. So, having a healthy relationship with food mentally and emotionally is a big thing. Also, with the physical act of eating. And what I mean by that is, the difference between when you eat like shit and when you don't. And when you eat like crap, you feel like crap afterwards a lot of times. You're sluggish, you're bloated. Whereas when you fill your body with good nutrients, you feel full, but you don't feel worn down because your body's actually using these nutrients to do what it's supposed to do. So take care of yourself. It's self care. And if you've got some issues with food, that might be a good place to start. Let's go ahead and jump into tip number four, which is you day. Now, I'm a single mom. Not single mom. I mean, her dad's involved and everything, but my child is with me most of the time. So I'm a single mom. Um, and regardless if it's a one parent or two parent household, it can be hard for moms to take a day, let alone 2 to 3 days to themselves, because everybody knows that the earth blows up when mom is not around. That mom is the only one that can tell you where you misplaced your AirPods. Mom is the only one that can fix you something to eat when there's cereal and PBJs and ramen noodles. I mean, you know, but if at all possible, especially if you have older children, set aside one day, one day where you have no work, no obligations, and you just do you. Whatever that looks like to you, you do you. It's a you day. I'm going to try to do that here soon as well. So it just so happens that a lot of things I like to do, my kid likes to do. So I'm just gonna have to kick her to the curb. But that's a story for another day. Let's get a drum roll, please. If I had a drum roll, I would do a drum roll right now. But I don't. So I'm sorry about that. The last tip, tip number 5, get plants or go into nature. I like to do both. I know that there's some of you out there that you're not trying to go on a hike, you're not trying to go walk uh where there's bugs and all that stuff, but I'm telling you what, there is something about being outside, even if it's on your deck, uh, sitting in your grass, reading a book, listening to music, just taking a walk around your neighborhood. There's something about being in nature that is really refreshing and almost cleansing. Plants, I've always wanted to be into plants, and it wasn't until COVID and the help of, um, with the help of my friend Sarah, that I started actually going out and proactively acquiring plants. And I started doing it when I was going through a low period, a depressive episode. And when I tell you that taking care of the plants, watching it grow, um, it really did a lot to pull me out. And I don't know if it was just the taking care of the life. I mean, it almost felt like an extension of myself taking care of the plants. And it has become kind of an addictive habit, because now I have more plants. And as I'm sitting here in my office, I'm thinking that I need plants for my office, because they do something for you as well. You look at them and, even if it's just greenery, I think plants are beautiful. And I think that the nature, the plants, sit outside in your deck. Do it today. Do it today. Take 10 minutes. Go for a walk in your neighborhood. As soon as you start feeling like your heart rate rising or something like that, maybe your anxiety might be kicking off a little bit, you know, go for a walk in your neighborhood. Go sit outside for 10 minutes on your porch and see what that does for you. I'm really glad that I was able to go through this stuff with you guys. The last 2 weeks talking about balance, and today having some tips on how you can implement self care in order to achieve some balance in your life. I really hope were helpful. Um, were the tips helpful? The 5 tips that we went over today: zen your home, improve your relationship with food, having a you day, disconnect from social media, start becoming a plant parent, or go outside. And of course, those weren't in the same order, but um, those were just a few that I really resonated with. And if you guys have any that you use that I didn't mention, um, or some that you have maybe heard of that you haven't used yet, please let me know. You guys can leave me audio messages on Anchor, or you're free to send me an email at voiceoverbyerica@gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining us this week on Living in Color. Make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. And while you're subscribing, if you like this episode or others, please leave a review and or tell a friend. That really helps me out. See you next time.